Hi everybody, I'm Dylan Parker. I'm a forester for the Chippewa-Loos-Mackinac Conservation District here in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Today we're going to take a look at a significant cultural activity that is maple tapping. So I wanted to take a little bit here and kind of talk about that. It's a fairly important aspect of springtime forest use here in Michigan, especially in the northern regions. And today we're going to look at a very small operation, kind of a basic backyard operation that anybody could get started with, and some of the basic equipment that you might need to get there. So I kind of wanted to start with looking at over here. This is the bucket, the container that everything's going to be stored in, and we also have this nice hose with the plastic tap on the end. So the way that this works is you would drill a hole using a power drill or a hand drill that's the proper size for your tap. Then you could smooth off the bark a little bit and then give it a light tap with a hatchet, and then that will seat it into the tree and make it an airtight seal. Then once the sap is flowing in the trees, we'll kind of see a little bit of that later today, the sap runs down this blue tube and into this bucket. So that process is repeated, and once the bucket's full, then the sap is emptied into a different container where it can be transported or stored to boil. This is a container that I choose to use. It's a 26-gallon tank. It's a spray tank that you could get from Harbor Freight or Tractor Supply. All those places are going to supply a tank like this. This one comes as the tank only, without any other sort of pumps or equipment. So it's pretty affordable, and it makes it easy to transport the sap. And this tank here fits perfectly into my jet sled. Right now we're going to be using the jet sled to transport all of the buckets, taps, lids, and the drill as well. These are the lids that go on top of the buckets. This kind of prevents anything from falling in there. So the buckets are going to be sitting outside for up to 20 days, so close to a month. And in that period of time, there's a lot of stuff that's blowing around in the wind, animals in the area, and you don't want any of that getting in your sap. So the lid's there to kind of help keep everything sealed up and contained and keep it from being contaminated. So now let's go take a look at the tree and the tapping process itself. So this tree right here, this is a prime specimen to tap. It's about 13 inches in diameter, and it's a sugar maple. Also, it's right out in the sun, so it's going to get plenty of warmth. That's the main factor that helps the sap move up the tree during the daytime and then come back down when the temperatures are colder again. So I'm going to show how to tap a tree. So you want to go about waist height and then find a nice groove in the tree. Angle slightly upwards so that the sap will flow down the tap, and then just drill a hole straight in about 2 inches. Clean off a little bit of the sawdust, and now we can insert our tap. Here's the tap that we're going to use. This is a 5/16 tap for the 5/16 hole that we just drilled. Pull out my hatchet, kind of smooth off this rough bark so that it can seat properly. Push it in and just give it a little tap. And that's that. So I did want to cover how the sap moves through the tree. So this time of year in the early spring, the daytime temperature is anywhere from 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the nighttime temperatures are well below freezing. So that freezing and thawing action of the tree creates positive pressure during the daytime that pushes the sap up the tree towards the canopy, and then at night when the temperatures are below freezing, it'll fall back down. And that freezing thawing process, you'll catch the sap both ways through these taps, and it allows the buckets to fill with sap relatively quickly, especially once with the consistent temperatures of of above 40 degrees. So now we're gonna put the bucket on the tree now that we have it tapped. And the idea here is that it's just downhill from the taps so that the sap will roll from the tree right into the bucket. For this bucket here, I drilled a hole in the side that allows me to insert the tubing through there and make sure it's nice and steady and it's not going to tip over. And that one's complete. I'm here with Pat. He is the owner of this woodlot here. Him and his dog Louie. So I'll turn it over to him, let him talk about his operation a little bit and some of his findings out here as well.
So, yes, my name is Pat, and I have 10 acres, primarily sugar maple, some beech, some cherry, and a few years ago, because it's culturally significant in this area, I decided I wanted to produce maple syrup. And so I went to a local place and obtained some equipment, tapped about a dozen trees my first year, and produced about 25 gallons of sap in about a week, and boiled that down to about a half gallon of syrup. Great experience. It's a great thing to do in the springtime while you're cutting firewood or just enjoying the spring. And this is something that every landowner can do. If you have some sugar maple, you could use red maple, and you could also use birch. So it's just with a few dollars worth of equipment, it's a great activity, and again, you produce nature's greatest sugar bounty, maple syrup.